Well, welcome to the 700 Club. This is an absolutely unbelievable story. The Biden administration is pressuring Israel to make more concessions for a ceasefire and hostage deal, even though Hamas still hasn't shown up at the negotiating table.
And now the terror group's leader is insisting Israel give him a personal guarantee. CBN's Chuck Holton explains.
Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar has reportedly added a new demand to ceasefire negotiations, his own survival. An Egyptian official told Israeli media that Sinwar wants assurances he won't be killed, despite previously stating he'd be proud to die fighting Israel. This as cracks may be forming in Palestinian support for the terror leader. On Tuesday, a Gazan woman interrupted a live Al Jazeera English broadcast shouting, "May Allah curse you, Sinwar and Hamas." She was immediately hauled away by an unidentified man. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insists on maintaining an IDF presence along the Philadelphia corridor at the Gaza-Egypt border. In a phone call Wednesday, President Biden reportedly pressuring Netanyahu to soften his stance to help get a ceasefire deal. But with the IDF having found and destroyed 150 tunnels there, Israel believes it must guard the corridor to permanently end Hamas threats.
We are prepared for any scenario, both in defense and attack.
Tehran claims that their delay in this massive response that they've promised for the killing of Ismail Haniyeh is part of their strategy for punishing Israel, but Israelis remain largely unfazed. The delay in Iran's execution of this attack has caused a lot of Israelis to just engage in a sort of cautious optimism that perhaps the attack won't be coming at all. Nevertheless, some are continuing to prepare while others are just going about their daily lives. As the war continues, the outgoing head of the Israeli military intelligence gave an address about the October 7th intelligence failure.
On that Sabbath, we failed the most important mission we're entrusted with, giving a war warning. The ultimate responsibility for the failure of the intelligence division rests with me.
As Israel deals with the aftermath of the October 7 attacks and still faces threats on all sides, the United Nations takes little notice. Israeli Ambassador Gilad Erdan criticized a new UN exhibit that highlights global victims of terror, but omits any mention of Israeli Jews or the October 7th attack.
There's not a single mention of any attack carried out by Palestinians against Israelis. We are about to mark 1 year since the massacre and the largest terrorist attack against Jews and Israelis since the Holocaust. Yet the UN does not think it needs to be displayed on its walls.
Chuck Holton, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, let's hope these protests against Hamas increase, that they're calling for their ouster, because Hamas is the cause of the war. They're the ones who started this. Let's always remember that. Israel wasn't involved in the Gaza Strip. They weren't involved at all. They had withdrawn years before. And in their withdrawal under the Bush administration, there was hope that there could be free and open elections. And in those elections, the Palestinian people would choose democracy and liberty. All of those things were the hopes. What did the Palestinian people do? The people in Gaza elected Hamas as their leadership. And now they're suffering the consequences of that choice, and they're saying, we don't want this anymore. I hope that spreads. I also hope it spreads to the streets of Chicago during this convention. It's amazing to me that a sitting president of the United States would look out over those protests and say, quote, they have a point, close quote. They don't have a point. They're calling from the river to the sea. They're calling for a genocide of Jews. If you as president are going to say they have a point, please, you've got to be kidding. We have vowed never again another Holocaust, never again on our watch. And here you're saying they have a point. They don't. Their point is we will repeat October 7 again and again and again until Israel doesn't exist. Well, let's take them at their word. Let's stand against it. Let's stand resolute and firm that no, you don't get to do this. You don't get to do this in the modern world. This is absolutely horrific. If we can't call it for what it is, I'm just astounded that any politician would take that position.